Hello and welcome to a new edition of Ask Drew, which is where I try to answer the questions that you guys have put to me on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Now, today's response for questions was pretty poor up until about 5-10 minutes ago, when all of a sudden a plea from me to send out questions came out and you have responded by the bucket load. So I'm going to split them over the next couple of episodes maybe. So here we go. The first question comes from Stuart Fullbrook, again of our podcast. So these are the guys that have to send in questions basically. So Stuart says, with so many computer games having excellent storylines, do you think it's hard for these to be interpreted on the big screen, and which games in your opinion would make great movies? Well, simply, yes. I mean, the line is very much blurring between cinema and games as it is. There's cinema writers now working on games writers working on film. If you watch the making of The Mandalorian, it shows you that they're even using now the Unreal Engine to do special effects for video games, for films, sorry. And so that's come straight from a video game manufacturer, and they're now using that to do real-time visual effects for TV shows and films. So the line very much is blurring. We've had a couple of relatively decent efforts recently. Detective Pikachu was a pretty good one, and so was Sonic the Hedgehog. They're probably easier than trying to translate something like the Uncharted movie, for example. Now, when I first heard that Tom Holland was going to become Nathan Drake, I was like, oh, Jesus. I love Tom Holland. Anybody who listens to our podcast knows how much I like Tom Holland. I think he's brilliant. But whether he could be Nathan Drake, anyone is yet to convince me. However, I've just started playing Uncharted from the beginning. I'm working my way through all 5 games. And I'm on number 3, where it starts off with a young Nathan Drake. And actually, I'll be honest, the young Nathan Drake in Uncharted 3 bears quite a bit of resemblance to Tom Holland. So perhaps there is hope there. Hope. But it's going to be down to the writing and the way the story is told. Now, I don't think that the Tomb Raider film, for example, was a particularly good movie. I don't think that it did what it doesn't feel like Tomb Raider. It feels like the new Tomb Raiders, but the new Tomb Raiders I don't feel were particularly great games anyway. So basically in answer to your question, yes, it is very difficult to produce games into films, mainly because now games are so cinematic anyway that you get used to these characters, you get used to the way they look, the way they act, and then that is translated into film where you've got someone else playing that character that you know pretty intimately, probably more intimately than you would do if they were in a film. So hopefully I'm going to be proved wrong and they're going to start making some really great crossovers, but I'm not holding out hope. So, next question. This one comes from another one of our podcast members. This is from Christian Vincent. What is the best comic, not film or other media, storyline ever? Well, excuse me, I should have turned that down. What is the best comic storyline ever? That is a difficult question. But I'm going to go with V for Vendetta, mainly because there's nothing like a bit of anarchy, is there? So everyone's going to have their own opinion on that. Personally, I love V for Vendetta, and they made a really good movie out of it as well. So, yeah, let's go with that. Next question. Chris Costick asks, favourite Ghostbuster, Star Trek Captain and Show, and my thoughts on the Picard finale. Favourite Ghostbuster? Tough one. Probably Egon, I think. Has some of the best lines. Very dry. and let's go with Egon. So yeah, it's difficult. It's like asking to choose which of your kids is your favourite. Favourite Star Trek captain is Picard, no two ways about it. Favourite show was definitely Next Gen as well. And my thoughts on the Picard finale were, it was excellent. I've seen quite a lot of hate for Picard from certain corners of the Trek-verse, shall we say. I don't share it. I think it was a very well-written show. I think that it proves that you can have characters from a much-loved show and bring them into a contemporary new version of that show. I think it treated the old characters with love and respect, and it gave a spoiler here, so I'm going to do a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear it, if you haven't seen the Picard finale, please turn this off or fast forward it. It gave Data an incredible send-off, much better than the one in Nemesis. So I'm looking forward to the next series. They've already said that they're going to change it, the way it works a little bit, possibly go to something more episodic rather than one long storyline. That might appease some of the more ardent Trek fans, but to me, I really didn't mind. I thought it was a superb show. Simon Carter says, what's the question you get asked in the shop that makes you roll your eyes? Well, this is a good one because it's not so much a question, but something I hear almost on a daily basis, and I have done for about 4 years, and that is someone will walk in and say, oh, it's like the Big Bang Theory in here, and then they'll flick through the comics and go, got, need, got. And honestly, I mean, every time. There is another thing. People walk past the front of the shop, see the giant R2-D2 in the window, and will say, oh, look, C-3PO. Or, oh, look, it's a Dalek. And I have to kind of, yes, not run out to the front of the shop and go, what are you talking about? It's blatantly R2-D2. If you don't know who it is, don't say it. Just go, oh, yeah, that's that thing from that movie. Leave it at that. My sister has sent me in a question, which is quite nice. Karen Dewsall has asked, what year was the first Bunty? Now, I believe Karen used to get the Bunty quite religiously when we were kids. The first Bunty came out in 1958, and it actually ran till 2001. And in that time, there were 1,455 issues, according to the comics website that I use for comics grading and stuff, which is the Comic Price Guide UK. If you want to get on there, there's a £9 a year subscription, but this isn't an advert, I'm just telling you. And number one in near mint condition is currently worth about £500, which for a comic from 1958 isn't a great deal, but then, you know, who knows. Alan Haynes asks, if you personally could own any collectible, what would it be and why? That is a brilliant question, and I do not know the answer. I have seen so much stuff from going to shows, from being obviously seeing the catalogues, seeing what the distributors send me on a regular basis. If I could have, I mean, are we talking collectibles that I can buy for the shop, or are we talking collectibles as in movie memorabilia? If we're talking movie memorabilia, then if I could have anything, I think I would probably want the DeLorean from Back to the Future, because it's so cool. But there's loads. I mean, so much stuff. But yeah, if I could have the DeLorean with all of the gubbins on the back, then I would go with that. Chris McGivern says, thoughts or hopes for the Ghostbusters 3 and Gremlins TV series? Well, Ghostbusters has now been put back to 2021, so that means we have an extra year of anticipation and possibly another year to wait before we have crushing disappointment or absolute elation. Who knows? I think that the trailer was promising, but it felt quite Stranger Things. Obviously, it's got the kid from Stranger Things, so there is going to be that comparison. I have high hopes for it, but I'll reserve judgment until I see some more of it, at least some more trailers featuring some of the original cast and how they're going to fit into that new universe. As for the Gremlins TV show, I have not seen anything about it, so I really can't comment on that. I hope they go with puppets, because Dark Crystal showed us that that is still a very viable medium. I hope that they keep the humour, and whether they can tell it over a longer period of time, I don't know. So I wait to see more information about that, basically. My girlfriend has sent in a question. If I could go back to my younger self, this is from Samantha Searle, by the way. Oh, I should say Sam. It's written as that on there, just so I'm in trouble now. If you could go back to a younger you and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be? Probably not to use her full name, and this question would probably be a good place to start. No, what would I say to a younger me? I honestly don't know. I try not to live my life with much regret. I believe that good experiences and bad experiences all lead you to where you're ultimately meant to be. And I would hope that I would go back to my younger self and just give myself the advice to be a good person, really, which I hope I am anyway. Possibly tell them not to open a comic shop because it makes you very, very poor. That's a joke, by the way. Of course. Now, Chris McGivern. Oh, Chris, you did sneak in 2 questions. That's quite clever. Well done. Predictions on Indiana Jones 6, 4, 5. Oh, that's an exclamation. It says V and then an exclamation mark. I thought it was V and 1. I was thinking, hang on, it's not number 6. But anyway, these glasses aren't very good for reading TV screens. I should have just not worn them. But okay. Anyway, so professional. Well, I presume that Indiana Jones and the Stanner stair lift from hell, or whatever it's going to be called, the Tenor Man of Doom, who knows? I think that I don't know why they're making another one. Harrison Ford is too old to be playing this role again. I don't think that he particularly did well in the last one. I thought the last one was pretty ropey, didn't have the same feel. Moving it out of, obviously they wanted to keep Indy the same age as he would have been, but moving it out of like the Nazis and the Second World War and the kind of more biblical, mythical stuff to kind of aliens and Russians and stuff, it didn't work, I don't think, at all. And I can't see how they're going to make another one. I don't know. Is it time to recast Indy? Harrison Ford has said that the character dies with him. Yeah, no, because even if he has some sort of contract, the moment he dies, they can recast it. So whether they should or not, I don't know, because he is ultimately Indiana Jones, isn't he? But somebody else may be able to play that role. Who knows? My prediction is that it will probably be not very good, the same as the last one, and easily ignored, and go back to there being just 3 very, very amazing Indiana Jones movies. Last couple of questions. Both come from Jack Mercer on Twitter. And Jack asks, what's your favourite Marvel live action film from 1944 to now? I kind of mentioned this in one of my earlier videos. Blade is still my favourite Marvel film of all time. Following on from that, I think Thor Ragnarok is the second film for me. It blends humour and action brilliantly and takes the characters to a different place. And it's got Korg. What more can you ask for? And finally, Jack also asks, this is kind of more of a question to do with the shop and the current situation surrounding comic deliveries. He asks, what will happen with the comics when we have to miss? Will we have to miss some? Or will you be saving certain comics for when the shop opens up again? Or will there be no comics being published until coronavirus is over? Well, currently, everything is on stop. So Diamond are not distributing in any way whatsoever. DC are looking at a multi-distribution option, but I don't know how that will work. In America, you can get your comics, you can buy them online, you can read them online straight away, and the comic gets sent to you. At the moment, we are completely shut, and there are no deliveries and no plans for any new deliveries for any time soon. So you're not missing anything, basically, is what I'm saying. How they, when it comes back, how they stagger the releases, I don't know. They're not all going to release them all in one go, because that would just be ridiculous. So whether they basically just, however long this takes, pick up from the week that it should have been and carry on, who knows? But currently there is no, there's no comic deliveries whatsoever, so you're not missing out on anything. Other than that, I think that's kind of a nice little concise show. I hope my answers have left you enlightened and feeling much more secure in the knowledge that I pretty much know everything. And that is ultimately why we're here, to bask in my incredible knowledge about a wide range of superb subjects. I'm going to leave you with this thought. Send me some more questions for the next one. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.